Another developing story this morning. At least 8 people were stabbed at a mall in St. Cloud, Minnesota. The incident happened at the Crossroads Center Saturday night. Police say an armed suspect entered the mall and began threatening people. Now, officials say the suspect made references to Allah and asked one person if they were Muslim before he assaulted them.
This is a Fox News alert. ISIS is now claiming responsibility for the attack last night at a Minnesota shopping mall. 8 people were injured after a man in a security uniform wielded a knife at the Crossroads Center in St. Cloud. An off-duty police officer killed the suspect.
Terrifying attack at a mall in Minnesota, which we mentioned earlier in the show. A man wearing a uniform, or rather the uniform of a security guard, stabbed several people before he was shot dead by an off-duty police officer. And ABC's Sunny Hostin is in studio this morning with that story. Sunny, good morning to you.
Good morning, Dan. It was a frightening scene. 8 people were injured in the attack at that shopping mall, leaving a town on edge. Overnight, a stabbing rampage inside a packed mall in Minnesota.
St. Cloud's getting reports of stabbing and shot fired at the mall off Division Street.
Witnesses say a suspect wearing a security guard uniform armed with a knife went on the attack inside the Crossroads Mall in the city of St. Cloud. Police swarming the area, putting the mall on lockdown as shoppers ran for safety in the chaos. At least 8 people were stabbed, police revealing the man made references to Islam.
That individual made some references to Allah, and we have confirmed that he asked at least one person if they were Muslim before he assaulted them.
Police not letting anyone in or out as they swept the area.
Whether that was a terrorist attack or not, I'm not willing to say that right now because we just don't know.
The motive? Still under investigation. St. Cloud's police chief saying the suspect was killed inside a Macy's department store by an off-duty police officer. The attack leaving this town shaken.
It's an awful day, honestly. For we've got 8 victims that were assaulted here in our mall. And so guess what? Starting tomorrow, things won't be the same here.
7 of the wounded were treated and released while 1 victim remains hospitalized. Thankfully, none of their injuries life-threatening.
An estimated 200,000 Muslims live in the state of Minnesota. When you walk into the businesses and the neighborhoods where Somalis reside, you would assume that you are in a Muslim country.
Family members, relatives, old friends, everybody will come to the Eid Day in the mall.
The Mall of America wouldn't be busy on a typical Monday night. But on this evening, thousands of Muslims from across the state are here to bring an age-old tradition into a new world. To honor the end of the Islamic pilgrimage to Saudi Arabia, many Minnesota Muslims make a pilgrimage of their own to the MOA to shop, visit with family and friends, and of course go on rides for the holiest of holidays, Eid al-Adha. It's the second of 2 Eid holidays. The other marks the end of Ramadan, which are attended by anywhere from 25 to 40,000 Muslims at the mall.
Because the Mall of America is part of our Somali American culture here in Minnesota. We love malls. We've got 7 Somali malls. So this is where we work, where we shop, where we enjoy. So that is really, we feel very safe and part of it.
All right, meanwhile, the Twin Cities, Minneapolis and St. Paul, are home to the Mall of America, 4 major sports teams, and the largest Somali Muslim population in the United States. The area now considered by some as, in some cases, ground zero for ISIS recruitment inside America. So what is it really like on the streets of these Somali American communities?
Pete Hegseth went to find out.
That's right. We took to the streets. I'm from Minnesota, born and raised there, and we wanted to take a look. So more than 60 people from Minnesota's Somali community have attempted to go overseas to join terrorist organization. Wow. What is making this area such a fertile ground for recruiting Islamists? One neighborhood in Minneapolis may hold the answer, so we went and took a look.
A terror connection leading right back to the Twin Cities.
Federal authorities say that a man's been arrested on terror-related charges.
Major concerns in the Somali community over a terror recruitment video that was released by Al-Shabaab.
It's often the lead story in the Twin Cities. Terror recruits coming from Minnesota, where thousands of Somalis relocated after civil war ripped their country apart in 1991.
We're here in the Cedar Riverside area of Minneapolis, what some call Little Mogadishu. These towers have long been a symbol of a very large Somali Muslim population here in Minneapolis. What some would say an increasingly insular Muslim population.
Pretty much everybody here is nice. They love this country.
The worst propaganda is by news medias, biased against all Muslims. And some people are targeting Muslims. Because I'm Muslim, it doesn't mean that I'm a terrorist.
Of more than 200 Islamic schools in the United States, at least 2, likely more, are located in Minnesota. American government is listed as a subject at one of these schools.
The Islamic schools here in Minnesota, they teach Sharia law.
Yeah, Sharia law.
And what do they teach also American law, the U.S. Constitution?
Actually, I have no idea about that one.
While many first-generation Somalis come to America looking for a better life, we had a hard time finding people in the Cedar Riverside neighborhood who spoke English.
We're here with Fox News just doing a story about the Riverside area. No English? Any at all? No? Just wanted to see if I could ask you a couple quick questions.
No English.
Would you be willing to chat with us?
No, speak language.
No English?
No English.
You go there and you see someone who's been there for like 20 years and he or she doesn't speak a single word of English because they don't interact with people outside that circle. It creates an environment where the lone wolf is going to be easier to hide in.
Omar Jamal is an outspoken community leader in Minneapolis.
Is radicalization still going on right now? Are Somali youth still being recruited by ISIS as we speak?
Yes.
National security expert Ryan Murrow has investigated radical mosques across the country and says terror recruits, most of them second-generation immigrants, feel isolated from society.
One of the critical factors in ISIS propaganda is saying that you belong in the caliphate and your life will be better under the caliphate. You'll get free health care. The social services will be wonderful. We'll all treat you as friends and family members. We'll hook you up with a husband or a wife. And so they have this illusion that the caliphate is a wonderful thing. And then they go over there and then they see the truth.
At least 2 young people who worshipped at the Al Farouk Mosque in Bloomington, near Minneapolis, have attempted to join terror organizations.
I want to see if there's anybody here we could chat with. Just about the mosque here and.
Unfortunately, there's nobody. If you can make an appointment, that'd be great.
There are allegations and evidence of connections to folks that have attended this mosque going to fight for ISIS. Do you know anything about that?
Like I said, I mean, this is at the wrong time. I mean, if you guys want to make an appointment, we could. But, we on the way. Can we maybe just step outside?
After we were kicked out of the mosque, we called to make an appointment, but are still waiting for a response.
U.S. government, since 9/11, has miserably failed to come up with a strategy to gain the minds and the hearts of the Muslim population. Until the U.S. government comes up with meaningful ways to engage not only Somalis in Minnesota, but overall Muslim community, I think we're going to have this war on terror for the next generation and the one after.
Here, what goes on in these campuses? A lot of people say, hey, there are Jewish camps in this country, Christian camps in this country. Why can't we have a Muslim camp?
Because these are truly no-go zones. Unlike the ones in Europe, which I have visited, you can actually walk into those no-go zones. You can walk in with your cameras, you can talk to people, but in these particular no-go zones, you cannot get into. They have gates, they have armed guards, they have security forces, and when you go up into them, you're specifically told to leave these particular areas, and they're particularly dangerous.
And we're watching right now. Where are we seeing this footage from?
This is a video they put out for the people inside of the compounds so that they learn how to do terrorist-type training. They teach them how to kidnap people, how to strangle them, how to kill guards, how to do guerrilla-type warfare training. And this is what goes on in these isolated no-go zones inside the United States.
In America, name some states, name some areas, because you also say they're affiliated with a Pakistani militant group.
Yeah, that Pakistani militant group is called Jamaat al-Furqa, run by Sheikh Jilani, who most people haven't heard of, but that is the guy that Daniel Pearl, Wall Street Journal, was hoping to interview and was arranging to interview when he was kidnapped and then later beheaded.
So name some towns, name some cities, name some states. Where are
Well,
you?
we have him in Texas, Sweeney, Texas. We have him in York, South Carolina. We have him in Commerce, Georgia. We have him in Red House, Virginia. We have him in upstate New York. We have him in California. We have him in Michigan. They're scattered all around the United States.
So right now, when you call up an officer and say, hey, wait a second, you got an enclave here. This is Islamic extremists being trained on our ground. What is the law enforcement's reaction?
Well, the interesting thing about these camps, they're located in very rural areas of America, which has very small police departments. And they intentionally set them up in these areas where, for instance, the one in New York, they have a total of 4 police officers.
I want you to hear what you say is a recruitment, the sound of a recruitment video to fill up these camps. Listen.
You're most welcome to join one of our, advanced training course in Islamic, or in Michigan, or in South Carolina, or in Pakistan, wherever we are, you can reach us.
Where'd you get that?
Well, actually, it took about 4 years to actually locate that video. We knew it existed, and we had someone inside of a law enforcement department out of Colorado who snuck us the tape, and finally we were able to make it public.
FBI's reaction?
FBI's reaction is that, look, they have the First Amendment and other American rights to operate these enclaves in the United States, regardless of the type of weapon training, guerrilla warfare training that's going on inside of them.
It's not okay with me, and it certainly doesn't seem to be okay with you. Martin Moyer, thanks so much, President and CEO of the Christian Action Network. Thanks.
Thank you for letting me be here.
And we'll keep looking at this.
What's going on in Minnesota? It seems to be on its way to be America's first Somali Muslim state. First, we've been watching the drama at the Minneapolis airport where Somali Muslim cab drivers are demanding the right to refuse service to passengers who violate Islamic law, Sharia law. These would be people carrying bottles of alcohol or have a dog traveling along, such as a blind person with his or her seeing eye dog. Then we have the situation with Target where Muslim cashiers refuse to handle a package of bacon at the checkout stand. Target has now reassigned these people so they don't have to handle pork, which means that Target has agreed to go along with Sharia law. The news today that in the suburb of Woodbury, a man and a woman were found with 1,000 pounds of khat. What is khat, you might ask? Well, it is a mildly hallucinogenic drug, which is a favorite of Somalis. When I was in Somalia, the biggest crowd at the outdoor markets were always around the khat stall, where a new load of the leafy drug had arrived from bush country or from neighboring Kenya. All these indicators say one thing very dramatically: Somalis coming to Minnesota are not assimilating. They're bringing the Muslim culture of that desert country to Minnesota's snowy woods. They may have to wear warmer clothing, but the Somalis want Islamic law just like back home, and they want the same illegal drug they had back home too. Minnesota is famously liberal, and now all eyes are on the state to see how voters there react to this onslaught against their culture and law. Are Minnesotans going to be so open-minded they say, sure, you can have a different set of laws here just for you and your people. We don't mind. We'll pretend we don't notice. There is such a thing as carrying politeness too far. What Minnesotans must say is, this is America. We already have law here. If the Somalis want to live under Quran law, Sharia, they could have stayed in Somalia.